Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
This is True Crime Cast. Jamie here. We usually jump straight into these bonus episodes and interviews, but just want to give a little precursor to this one. We're going to be talking to Brandi Morey-Pols, who lost her son Rowan to a murder-suicide just a few months ago at the hands of his biological father. And it's a very emotional story, maybe the most emotional interview that we have done. So it's certainly interesting, and there is a lot of positive change coming as a result of this tragedy, and Brandi's making a lot of things happen. So please listen in at what her plans are and how we can possibly help to contribute to the positive work that she's bringing out of this horrific tragedy. Here's our interview with Brandi. We're joined today by Brandi Morey-Pols, who has been referred to us by the Mother Like Murder podcast, some podcast friends of ours, about something tragic that's happened in your life recently, and you're trying to use it for good. So, Brandi, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
You're joining us because your son, just a few months ago, was killed in a murder-suicide. To start off, just tell us about Rowan. What things did he enjoy? What was he into?
His mom.
Yeah. Yes, like every little boy should be.
This one got it a little bit more than the rest. Ask my older three children. And they're older. They're 27, 22, and 20. So, I was 42 when I had him. So my father had passed away 7 years ago. And I found out that Rowan was coming along about a few weeks after my dad passed. So he was named after my dad. And he passed away 10 days before he was about to become 7. But when our family was and my dad died suddenly. And when our family was in such a dark place, he brought so much light and love to our grieving.
Sure.
And he looked like my dad. Oh. So don't tell me I gave birth to my father. That's creepy.
What kind of stuff did Rowan like to do? Can you tell me a little bit about his personality?
Golfing, pranks, scaring me, because I love to scare him too. But he loved his family. He loved because we're blended. My husband and I are in between the two of us. We have 8. And I think they're grown, but I think we see them every month, if not more. And he was a huge part of that. Huge. And he just loved him bragging to his older brothers and sisters about his golf game and how good and he was really good too. We live on a golf course here, and right on the fairway that we live on, he hit his longest drive at 110 yards for a 6-year-old.
I'm 40 something, and that's better than what I can do right now.
He played for PGA Junior. We have a pool up here, and he learned how to swim this summer. He had the best summer of his life. And I thank God for that we did a lot together.
It sounds like he was kind of the youngin'.
Yeah, he was the youngest and quite spoiled. My husband would get on me every now and then again for that, but I thank God now that I did that he got just about everything he wanted, and he was still a good boy. He was such a good boy.
That's what I was thinking when you said he was kind of the youngest, and looks like there's kind of a gap between him and your oldest. I was God, that little feller was so spoiled, but in a good way. Like,
yes. Yeah. Yes. They're all struggling really bad right now. We actually just had one of our daughter's birthdays this weekend, and they all just left today. And it just helps so much having them here and together with us. But we definitely notice his absence.
So, Brandi, what happened that ended up taking such such a blessing away from you. I mean, my heart goes out to you. I've been praying for you ever since we've been
Thank
introduced.
you so much.
But
Thank you.
tell us what led to that.
A lot of neglect on the people that you're supposed to go to get help. CPS, the biggest, friend of the court, the judge, the police, on every level. I mean, I knew from, I want to say from the start that he was going to be very difficult. So I parallel parented, and I knew to just keep things neutral with him because he was just an angry, dark. He had dark eyes, not right, and I could feel it. And the first thing he did that really stood out, and I knew we were in for a bad time, was in 2020, just after COVID, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And he was taking me to court to lower his child support because we all were on, what's the word? Laid off. We were all laid off. And we had to adjourn that hearing because I had to get my breast removed. He sent my son back home bald. He shaved all of his hair off. And I didn't react because I knew that's what he wanted. I just said, "Hi, baby," and got him in the house and went about life. And then the next year, a week before my oldest son's wedding, and he knew when it was, he shaved his hair off again. And, I knew that if someone was capable of doing something like this, so blatantly obvious, what he was doing behind closed doors with this child. And as his mother, I knew CPS wouldn't take me serious, or the courts at that point. So I thought if I did everything in my power, when it did come to court, that they'd listen. So I put him in counseling, I think when he was 4. That was the second time he had shaved his head bald. I could tell by his demeanor and his personality and the way that he would act that he was having problems with it. So I took him to counseling for a year. I asked his father to join. He said he would a couple times. He never did. Then we did mediation through an attorney that I got to try and work through these differences that we were having. That didn't work. So then by the third time, no, this was the fourth time, it was right after I got married. So that's when things started escalating. And it was 27 degrees out that day in January. It was January 9th. I don't know why I remember that. I could tell, and he had told, because he had him for like 2 weeks for Christmas break. So he had been gone for a while. He did it just before they walked out the door. And you have to know that Mike didn't have a license or a job. So he had a bicycle with a trailer behind it. And that's how he got Rowan around. And I would beg him, "I'll do all the driving. I'll do everything. It's cold out. It's dangerous. It's all these things." And absolutely not. He threatened me with trespassing, all these things. So then when I got Rowan that day on the night, and it was to the scalp, I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures, but it's just, yeah. And I think this was the time that it really, and he had told me those 2 weeks that Dad slept all day. He was just eating toast. And there were nicks in his scalp for, I think, how hard he had done it. So this time I'm fed up. I'm like, okay, I've crossed all my T's, dotted my I's. I've done all the things that I could. They're going to listen to me this time. So I called CPS. And the person taking the call was just flabbergasted. But the young 25-year-old girl that came to my door took my story down, listened to me, and then she went to his house. Doesn't work, can't drive. She went there twice and he didn't answer. So then she called and called and called and called. And he finally answered. And I guess this is legal. I didn't realize it at the time, but he said, "I'm not allowing you out onto my property until you tell me the allegations." So she did. And she had the audacity to come back to my home and stand in my home and tell me, well, it's absolutely immaculate. Smelled like bleach. It was so clean. Well, of course it's going to. You told him.
Yeah.
You told him what's going on. So she sat there and I just told her, I go, the emotional and mental thing that this is doing to my son. Because when he had gotten home that day, I gave him a bath. And when he got out of the bath, he just stood in the mirror and he started to cry. And he said, Mama, I look funny. And I'm like, baby, no, you don't. Just got a whole lot more face.
Yeah.
You just try to spin it and put it in a better perspective. But I told her all these things, how much it's affecting him. I mean, at that point, you know, your little personality is forming, you know. Do you know, because I've had cancer, that the number one question that people ask when they know they've been diagnosed with cancer is, it's not if I'm going to die. It's am I going to lose my hair? Well, your personality is forming right then. And I watched him. This devastated him. To watch that. And I told this girl that. She just looked at me and she's like, okay. Like, it didn't faze her. And I said, you know what? If he was a little girl, you'd care. You'd do something.
Yeah.
She closed the case. She did nothing. So I believe where I'm at with the CPS part of it, there needs to be better training for these people that are doing this, more funding. They're overloaded. I was actually informed that Isabella County, their CPS, they're allotted 9 cases per person that works there. They're actually taking on 14. And they move them around when people come to check, whoever the people are that check on them, move them around so it doesn't look like they have 14 and they're overloaded, but they actually are because they're so understaffed.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. And the fact that mental and emotional abuse aren't given the same weight as physical abuse is disgusting. It's going to lead to something worse. It always does. If he's doing the things that he did, how? And in front of the court was very aware of what was going on. I kept them informed. So it's in front of the court, you go in front of a referee and then the judge if there's appeals going on. So we were in front of Jennifer Galloway, and she's a woman, and she listened, and she was disgusted. You could tell. And in all my life, I've never felt more stalked by a human being than this man. I mean, he knew how much I owed on a car loan at one point. He knew where I had dinner on Wednesday nights. He knew when I would go out of state, and he would threaten me with case numbers from my divorce 16 years ago. What does that have to do with us? Yeah. Absolutely nothing. He didn't have a job, but his full-time job was me. Mm-hmm. And he would have my anxiety so high at points where I'd just start shaking when he just sent me an email, and I would actually forward that to another friend of mine, and she would write the response and I'd copy and paste because I couldn't do it. He scared me, and I knew there was darkness there. So then I got married. I moved in the state of Michigan. It's a 100-mile rule where you can move away from where you were at. Our house is 98. So I just skidded past that. And where we live, we wanted to put Rowan in a private Christian school and have him play all the sports that he's wanting to play, do all the things he's wanting to do. For Rowan's first 2 years of school, he was in preschool at a Methodist church, and then I put him at Vowels in Mount Pleasant. Mike didn't take him to school for 2 years. And in the state of Michigan, that's legal until he's 6. So Rowan's life was just turmoil. It was just, what is this compared to this life that I give him? It was just so opposite. And
how much time was he spending at Mike's during that time?
50-50.
Okay.
So, and when we came to the point of this, of talking about, okay, we have this child together. We were never in a relationship. Nicest way to say it, my father passed away and I hoopsed.
Mm-hmm.
But I told him, I said, I don't want to go through the courts. My older kids went through that with my divorce, and I know what that does to children. I said, I just want to get along. I don't want your money. I don't want anything. And this is how this went. It got to a certain point where I think he wanted the whole picture. And in the nicest way possible, I was like, why don't we just raise him as a team? Just give him the best life possible. And he took that rejection very hard. Mm-hmm. And the hatred from him was immense throughout the years. And I tried so hard to keep it parallel parenting. Mm-hmm. I did not engage in all the nasty things. Like at one point when I told him that I was putting Rowan in counseling, he said, did the cancer metastasize to your brain? I put up with a lot from this man throughout the years, but I can't even imagine what my son did, what he went through. So we had been in mediation since January, honey, to get Rowan down here, hour and a half away, put him in this great school. We want you a part of it. You don't have a job. He was very secluded. He didn't have a community there. He had no friends, nobody. I even believe, I'm not for sure, that he was very not close to his family either. Like at one point, they were getting dropped off here, and Mike's sister was dropping him off. And I asked Rowan, I'm like, well, what's your aunt's name? He didn't know it. So they're quite estranged, I do believe. I'm not for sure, so can't be positive, but we were in mediation all year. And at one point, Mike said he'd actually move here. And we were elated. Be a part of his life. Do the things that come watch him play golf and see how happy it makes him. Just be a part of that. He was lying. He never had any intention of doing that. And so all summer long, we were back and forth with mediation with him, and it just got uglier and uglier and more intense, to the point where, because we're 50-50, he started denying dental cleanings. He did not. I told him so this, over the summer, Rowan started to self-harm. And he's 6. Like, we were out on our back patio having dinner, and he threw his head back and slammed his face into the table. And I was blown away. I'm like, and I grab him and I'm like, why'd you do that? And he looked at me, he goes, I don't know. Mm-hmm. So he would put bruises on himself. And then he'd stand there and he'd squeeze his stomach and give himself bruises. So I put him in counseling. And Mike said, no. He goes, I don't approve. And did it anyway. Like, take me to court, mister. There's something going on here, and I need to help my child. Not once did I think to call CPS, because of what are they there for? Yeah. I mean, so we were in court once. Jennifer Galloway, we went higher, and it was in front of Judge Eric Janes. And he berated me for calling CPS. He told me, not for 1 second do I believe that kid just ate toast, and that it was a gross misuse of resources for children that truly need it. I wonder if he feels that way now.
Right. Wow.
It's disgusting. So school was supposed to start the 22nd here, and I was supposed to have him back on the 19th. But we hadn't gone to court yet. We hadn't done anything. So I still was going to take him to school in Mount Pleasant. I'm not going to go against the court order. I had no intention to. I don't know. I don't know, mother's intuition or what it was, but that Thursday before the 19th, my husband and I were having dinner on the backpack, and I looked at him and I said, he's not coming home. And he just looked at me, and I'm like, just got a really bad feeling. In my 903, I always sat in the other room and waited on the couch and watched for him. And 9:03 a.m., I don't know why. I just instantly knew something was bad. And you get like a half hour leeway, in case there's weather problems or car issues or whatever. He oddly, through the summer, I offered to have my mom pick up Rowan. I offered to do the driving. Because he doesn't have a license. He would bike to CMU and take 2 buses, go stay in a hotel, and then Uber here in the morning. The heck?
Wow. Yeah.
Why? Instead of accept my help. That's what he would do. And that Monday, I'm like, okay, it's 9:30. He's not here. I waited till 10, and I called the sheriff. No, who did I call for? I called my attorney first, and then my best friend. And we're like, okay, just have him call the sheriffs. And at this point, I tried to placate that I'm worried for both of them at this point. I was not worried for Michael. I was not. I knew I knew this person was doing up to something horrible. So I called the sheriffs and asked for a wellness check. We have the body cam footage, and we didn't get it from them. We got it from the news stations. They knocked on the door and they left. Did they walk around that time?
Yes.
They walked around the house. And they saw Mike's truck was in the garage. He had several vehicles also, which is strange to me for a man that can't drive.
Right.
So the week prior, the 12th, when I dropped him off up there, he has a long driveway. Well, he had a white camper to the right side of the driveway, and then his black truck parked in the driveway or up to the garage. And he was standing outside. And I'm like, I just gave him a normal kiss goodbye. Not knowing it would be the last time. So when they did that wellness check, that first one, camper was gone, but the truck was in the garage. He told me that, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but he said something like, we'll check in the morning. I'm going to wait that long? Wait, what?
Was this still the sheriff's office?
Yes. Okay. And so come midday, like I couldn't handle it. I do believe my husband called. No, I called for another wellness check around 6. I do believe they went out again, did the same thing, but then called the Isabel County. She's like, listen, this is ridiculous. Like this, they could be hurt somewhere. He's also trying to seem concerned over Mike's welfare. Also, I'm calling his home phone. So Mike throughout the years he claimed he didn't have a cell phone. He made communication almost impossible. He had a landline that had like an old school answering machine. He'd shut it off. So at this time, every phone call I would send to at this time would just be nothing because there's no answering machine on. So, something's wrong, gravely wrong. And he had done this a couple times before. He had not returned Rowan on time. It had been a few hours here and there. So I had called and had them do wellness checks. So now they're, the sheriffs are treating me like, oh, she's the crazy mom kind of thing. And they didn't take us seriously. So then my husband was angry and he called them. The guy actually told my husband to shut up at one point. And they told us to call Kent County because that's where we live. And my husband's like, that doesn't make sense. Why would we call where he didn't go missing?
Right.
And they argued. And so we did. We called Kent County and they actually showed up, came to our house, and they had done more than Isabel County in half an hour than what Isabel County had all day to do. They found 4 phone numbers for Mike.
Huh.
Yeah. What else was there? But they also said, the guy said, get in your car, go up there and get in their faces and tell them your concerns, what you're worried about. And so it was late at night, and we did. We drove up there. I think we got there about 1:30 in the morning, and we're just begging. And we have the body cam footage, of that also. It's disgusting how they placated me, how they dismissed me, how you could tell they just wanted me. They're just standing there to listen so I could go away.
Yeah.
And then my husband told our son, my stepson Bryson, he's 13, because he loves his little brother too. So he was there. He said, take Mom to the car. I want to talk to him for a little bit. I can tell this part, can't I? My husband, it's on body cam footage, said, this is a guy who is going to do murder-suicide. He will do anything to hurt my wife. We're in a custody battle right now. And we were, like, my attorney, hands down, we had a date set for September 5th, said, even if you were still living here, you'd get full custody. This is insane, all the stuff that he's gone through, right? Well, my husband's like, we've got this custody battle coming on. We have a court date set for September 5th. We would have gotten him.
Yeah.
And he said over and over again, he's got guns. He's got guns. Well, his DUI was a massive DUI because he had hurt people. He had 2 other cars he had hit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he had lost his license permanently, possibly. But he was still considered a felon. You can't have guns.
Mm-hmm.
So I know he did. I had seen one at one point before things got ugly. It was on a tripod thing on his back deck. And it was like a semi-automatic. It was one of the ones with the big gold bullets that just feeds through it.
Right.
And I went, what the heck are you doing with that? And he's like, I'm shooting coyotes. I'm like, that seems like overkill.
It does seem very extreme. Yeah.
Exactly. And my husband told them that. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. So then they sent us home without him. And it was the hardest ride home I've ever had. So I didn't sleep. My older children, one of the dispatchers at the sheriff's department said, put him up as missing on your social, get his face out there. I'm like, all right. And late that night I did, and it went viral quickly in this area and up there. And by morning, I think at like 5 in the morning, 2 of my older kids called me bawling. They're like, where's my brother? And I told them, I said, don't worry. We're going to find him. Don't worry. The camper wasn't sitting there. All the people that were looking for him were checking out other campgrounds all around Michigan, hoping to find him. We had reports all over the place. I mean, he's an adorable little blonde boy with blue eyes. Mm-hmm. They're quite common. And nothing that whole day. So Tuesday morning, I left as early as possible to get to my attorney's office. My husband stayed here in case he was trying to play like, oh, something happened. I got him here a day later. Whatever. We were hoping. So he stayed, and I went up there to my attorney, and my attorney and I both went to the courthouse to file an emergency ex parte motion, which that's another thing I'm working on. Judge James signed the original court order saying we're 50-50, Monday, 9 a.m. to Monday, 9 a.m. Why do I got to ask you again to uphold the original order that you signed? Why do I need your permission for the police to go in and bring my child home and make sure he's safe?
It's already on the books. Yeah.
Why? So the sheriffs kept telling us, it was 24 to 72 hours window that they would, with their discretion, their procedure. And I would spent the worst 52 hours of my life. And that judge denied it. Those cops could have gone in. They could have knocked down doors if he signed it. And that's the same judge who berated me for calling CPS.
Yeah.
He's the one who denied the emergency motion. And his reasoning, which I just found out, I didn't know at the time, was because it hadn't been long enough.
And what day was that he actually denied it?
Yeah. Tuesday.
Okay.
Tuesday afternoon.
Okay.
He was found dead Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Because I had talked to one of the sheriffs on Tuesday, and because I don't know his family. I've never met them.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I go, get a hold of his family. Somebody, like at least maybe they've talked to him, anything. And I guess the sisters went up to the house and they found them in the camper. And that's when Judge James signed a warrant.
After that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is this a family court judge? In Kentucky, where we are, it would be a family court judge.
Well, I think he's everything kind of judge.
Okay. Where was the camper?
I think he's on the property.
Okay.
It had been the whole time, all the way to the back. If they would have just searched the property to make it so I would go crazy and lose my mind. And it does look like to us that he was waiting for me to get there. And I did. But we just drove. We had I had my stepson and my husband with me. We drove there, but we didn't get out. So I do believe he was waiting to take me out with it. It's disgusting on how many levels failed him.
Right.
That's what I was just thinking is there are so many people between you and him legally that dropped the ball.
Throughout the years.
Yeah.
I mean, you as a mother did everything that you should have and everything that you could have.
Still doesn't feel like I did.
I think you were let down by everybody that you went to.
I think I will go over and over and over the details in my mind for the rest of my life. Sundays are the hardest for me personally. I know our family because that was our church day.
Mm-hmm.
We go to church, then we go get breakfast, and he'd be so excited about breakfast because he would get chicken fingers and fries, and I'm the only one not eating breakfast.
Yeah.
So today's typically more difficult for me.
Yeah.
And then we would take our boys. We were all about collecting memories with our family instead of having all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did a lot with them. And I'm so thankful we did. We have so many great memories. We took that kid on a 5-mile hike in Kentucky because we went to the Noah's Ark thing. Yeah. We took the boys there. And then there was a trail. Do you remember where it was? 5 miles for a 5-year-old. That kid, and it was, there's some good drops you guys got down there. And he did it up until like the last 20 minutes. He was like, okay. Then he was pouty and whiny and somebody carry me. But he just was the sweetest.
Yeah.
I got him a Spider-Man costume. And he was a skinny little guy. So you put it on him, it was even funnier looking. All in black with a little bit of red on it. And he'd sneak up our stairs. I know one morning I peeked my head out and I saw him like slinking along the stairs to try and come in to scare me. So I put myself back in bed so he could scare me. He wore this thing for weeks. And then I'm looking at my phone at a picture I took of him and I'm like, oh, that's not a spider. It was a cockroach.
He thought he was Spider-Man, it sounds like, though.
He had no idea. Yeah. And I told my older kids, don't you dare tell him. My husband started calling him La Cucaracha.
That's so funny. I was just thinking I would have called him La Cucaracha.
Yeah.
You're,
Because he's,
I think it's, for whatever reason, human nature to blame ourselves and to beat ourselves up when stuff like this happens. But you shouldn't, and I know that's easy for me to say sitting here. I wish that, and I don't think we're going to solve this in this phone call, but I hope that, number one, I hope that the judge who denied all of this is fully aware of the situation. I hope that that he knows.
I don't know how he couldn't be.
Yeah.
And I hope that spurs some kind of change, because there were so many red flags that were up that should have been taken more seriously, and they weren't. So I wish this would have never happened, but I hope that since it did, something positive can come out of it, and perhaps another mom will never have to go through what you have.
Oh, dear God. We met with senators last week in a house. We were at the House of Representatives on Tuesday. I'm not sitting idle by. We were starting up a nonprofit, Rowan. We couldn't use Rowan's law. It's already taken from Canada. I think it was a concussion syndrome thing. But I'm not sitting around waiting. I'm full force, getting in contact with any resource I can, and I'm actively seeking change. The 24 to 72 hours is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ask Judge James if he would wait 24 to 72 hours if his kid wasn't returned to him.
Right.
And then it was denied. Ask that CPS worker. She was too young. I don't think she had kids, but still.
Yeah.
Like, I still just remember the look on her face. Like, she just didn't care. She's overloaded. Yeah. And there wasn't, the only physical thing wrong with him was he shaved his head. Oh, dang. No, I was a hairdresser. Obviously, he's using this child, and that's a huge part of the front of the court system.
Yep.
To the relationship between the parent and the child. And he was definitely using that child to hurt me.
It was spite.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I never gave him a reason to be so spiteful, except for I didn't want to be with him. I mean, look what he did.
Yeah.
I could see in him the bad. It was. Yeah. I choose. Henry Rowan was baptized with me and my stepson in May. And my stepson came to me the night before, or both of us, and asked, he's like, could I do this with you guys? 100%.
Yeah, praise the Lord.
So the pastor that was in my house when I got home on Wednesday, telling me that my son had died, was the pastor who had saved him and baptized him in May. We were just in church today, and he talks about him still. Our church is huge. And he was saying, I still cry. So I went over Rowan. That Wednesday he passed away, all my kids and everyone showed up here at the house, and we went to church that Sunday. And Pastor Ken talked about Rowan and how when I first found out my son had died, the very first thing out of my mouth was, my God didn't do this. I will not have any hatred for my God. I know my God didn't do this. Mm-hmm. And he talked about that Sunday. And I've gotten quite closer to him since then. And we had a conversation after that. And he said, do you know how many hundreds of people came up to me after that service and were so impressed and proud that I was in church? And I'm like, why are you shocked? I want to be where my God is and where I feel closest to the Lord and have their support and help. It was a beautiful day just to have all that support system. And he said to me, he goes, it was the most beautiful time for him as a pastor. It's one of his favorite days. He goes, because I didn't pastor that day. He said, I did.
Yeah.
Just by being strong enough to be there. I'm like, I didn't feel strong. I needed you guys more than anything. And I still do. But I choose to look at it as God chose me to be that baby's mama for as long as I got to be. We were having problems with him over the summer over how he would eat, because he just, and it got worse towards the end because he probably wasn't eating. He wasn't having dinners, and he was just a big macker. So when I'd make him breakfast, lunch, dinner, we would just, oh. And I know my best friend Christina and her daughter Gracie, the week before he left, came to visit us, and we went to the pool. Well, there's like a little ice cream shop and snacks shop stuff. And I'm like, I am not letting him. And I told him, I'm like, you're not getting not a thing until you eat lunch. I can't tell you how many Skittles and ice creams he had and all this stuff. And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
Like within 15 minutes of being there, my friend Christina's like, really?
That's
like, awesome. I can't help it. I'm so glad I did. We just found out. So there's a few attorneys working with us that Isabella County Sheriff's just filed an extension for the FOIA. So they don't have to give us anything yet. What's that about?
Right.
I did find out what weapon was used. I think that's the thing that I have to keep to ourselves for now.
Yeah.
Because there are definitely lawsuits going on all aspects of this situation. I can't even was it Gabriel Fernandez that the CPS people ended up doing some time for that? Is that right? Out in California?
Yeah.
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 I mean, I don't wish that, but I do. Somebody's going to lose their job.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody needs to. That judge, dismiss yourself. Step down.
Yeah.
You're disgusting. What would it have hurt to have signed it?
Yep.
I'm just some basket case. Wouldn't you be Judge James?
Yeah.
If you couldn't find your child with a man like that?
Yeah. The fact that you're having these conversations to raise awareness and create positive change is admiration is the only word that comes to my mind. And having heard some other interviews that you've done, it sounds like there's maybe a specific outcome that you're looking to push for in this.
Yes.
We've covered Amber Alerts and the history of that on this show before, but you think there may be a similar legislation that could help here?
I think the beginning of any FOC case, so a mother and a father coming together that you have to go to the court, I think both of you have to have a mental health evaluation.
Yeah.
What's it going to hurt? And you're going to spot some massive red flags that are going on either side. And if you take the Rowan alert, and because everyone knows parents come fight it and use kids to hurt each other. So if Rowan's alert does actually happen in those 30 minutes in this day and age with all the communication that we have at the touch of our fingers, if you haven't heard something from that parent within 30 minutes and they show up and you've not returned that kid, you're going to jail. Spend the night in jail. Pay some fines, because guess what's going to happen at FOC? Their caseload's going to go down too.
Yeah.
Because those combative parents aren't going to use that kid anymore. And this crap is going to stop. It just didn't stop for my son.
Yeah.
And you could tell, like, my husband, Mike burnt his laptops and his cell phones, all of his communication. He master reset the iPad that was in the camper. What the heck else was going on?
He did all this before you discovered what happened?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep. what the heck was he up to?
Yeah.
I do believe it had something to do with drugs because of that accident that he had caused because he was so drunk. He broke his back and hip. And I know from a few resources in the area, he was turned away at McLaren Hospital for pill seeking. The only thing I can think was it some sort of something with drugs. I want his toxicology. I want my son's toxicology. There's no date of death. There's no time. They put on the death certificate, it says unknown.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
Right.
That's not a thing. I think they're massively trying to cover for themselves. They're really trying to say that he passed away on Monday. I don't believe that in any shape or form. We had an open casket.
Yeah.
So, and the funeral director where we had him set had been within the last 24 hours because he was so, we had the casket open.
Right.
But if they're saying he died, they're trying to say he passed away when the head was reset. That's not how you do a time of death.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. And that was at 3:50 in the morning. They originally said 7:53 in the morning. Now they're saying 3:50. So it would have been Sunday night, Monday morning. So you're telling me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning in a camper closed up like that. And the sheriff that I spoke to, he's like, don't you remember it was chillier out then? It was colder out. It wasn't during the day because I was up there.
Yeah.
I was up there and I was sitting outside talking to that sheriff. A lot going on that we don't know that we're going to find out.
Yeah.
I won't stop until I do. And we've got people working on that for us. So they're corrupt up there. Yeah. They're corrupt in every level. And no one's giving us answers that make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got body cam footage of them. One of the sheriffs, was he walking around the camper? They were making fun of me and laughing. What did he say?
Was laughing and saying that he's just effing with her.
He was laughing and he said, he's just effing with me.
Yeah.
But he, used the full word. I don't know if you can swear on your podcast.
That's fine.
How gross.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I would love to talk to that guy. Face me.
Yeah.
See if it's so funny now.
Yeah. And that's, you mentioned that the details are not adding up. Obviously that could indicate that if the time of death was at a certain time, it could show that, hey, we missed these number of opportunities to step in when we were asked to, and then trying to avoid accountability potentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But there's so much not accountability on all levels that need to be answered for. And that's what we're pursuing.
There's a verse that comes to my mind in this situation. That's what's done in the darkness will come to the light. So I'm glad 100%. I'm glad you're pushing this, and I can almost guarantee you that those people who didn't heed your warnings they know they did something wrong. So I'm confident that things will change for the better in that county because there were so many missed opportunities that things will be taken more seriously. But it's sickening that it had to come to this for that to happen.
Is there anything our listeners can do? Is there a petition? Is there a phone number? Is there anything we can do to help move the needle on letting people know something needs to change?
Well, our nonprofit's not completely set up yet.
Okay.
But I've got my paperwork started. I'm working on that with my attorney. If your listeners know anybody in higher places that can help us get this going,
sure,
get in touch with me.
Okay.
We're Pols family at outlook.com.
And I'd like to stay connected so that when this does go through legislation, we will have that update and can be made aware of that. But I'd like to see this go nationwide and not just a Michigan state law.
Yeah.
So
I agree 100%. Like, I can't imagine that. Like, I mean, look at, it was Gabriel Fernandez in California. There was another little boy missing. It's until kidnapping, the laws need to change for every family.
Yeah.
So nobody has to have a missing Rowan.
Yeah.
Brandi, our thoughts and prayers continue to be with you and your family. And thank you so much for being vulnerable enough to come and talk about this hard stuff.
And even as the nonprofit gets up and moving, if there are donations or any way to give or support, let us know, and we'll absolutely share that.
Fund me.
Okay.
I can get a link to you guys if you would like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, shoot it to
we
her
will share that for sure.
But all the money's going towards the nonprofit to start doing stuff like this. Like, just, I mean, there's so many different levels of things that we have to work on. And, it's an election year. So who we met with, they're not back in session till next year after the election, which we understand. And I know this is going to be a long road, but it's one I'm willing to take on to give him justice.
Yeah. Admiration, again, is the word that comes to mind. So if we can ever support, let us know. But we will definitely keep an eye on what's happening and keep in touch. And then if you have another message to share, then let us know and we'll chat again.
All right. I will update you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
You've listened to True Crimecast, distributed by Stoveleg Media. Check out stoveleg.com to find out more about your hosts and to find other podcasts to listen to. Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.